All right, let's get our Facebook folks up in here. Spinning wheels 1 and 2. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. It is 7:30 on the dot, and it's Tuesday, Tuesday morning, which means it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, on these morning shows, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how are things on the East Coast?
Good. It's game week.
Mm.
So, I can't say I'm particularly looking forward to a 9 p.m. Eastern kickoff on Saturday when I've got a 4:30 wake up call Sunday morning. So, I might miss you on the aftermath or the gut reaction show and catch that one in the morning.
Yeah. Yep. It's officially game week. Excited for that. Excited to honestly, this might be. I'm not excited for it all, but I think that you might even get more information from the combined practice that is on the horizon as well from the Cowboys. But either way, we are ramping up in terms of the quality of football being played and the quality of information that's coming out. So really excited to get into that. And speaking of quality, before we even get any further, guys, taking control of your male grooming is important. If you're experiencing an overgrown yard, Manscaped's products are so good, you're going to be showing pride in your new trimmed property. It's a fact that you will have the best kept area in the cul-de-sac, save big, and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using our discount code MHH for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Whether you're looking to go bald like an eagle or just in need of a safe trim, Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The grooming package is what I highly recommend in the Performance Package 4.0. Inside the package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is a bush's worst nightmare. This trimmer is designed to reduce grooming accidents and shave hair on loose skin thanks to the ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology. And I always, like I mentioned, I like the crop mop is probably the smaller product of theirs, but I enjoy it. I just did a massive, difficult hike this last weekend, 17 miles, 5,000 feet of elevation gain. About 12 of those miles were sun exposed, and we were going to go get food afterwards. Not the way I was. I went into the bathroom real quick, crop mopped a little bit, cleaned myself up, feeling better, not smelling so nasty. Still probably needed a shower, but the crop mop helped me out there after that trip.
Yeah, so manscaped.com, 20% off with the code MHH. Help support the people that help support us. We'd love you for it, Broncos country, and you're obviously a big help, and they help keep the lights on too. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Speaking of thanks, we got some guys coming in here. We got WTH, First No Fear. Is either with First No Fear or what the hell? First No Fear. I don't know. Good morning, Nick and Scott and all of Broncos country. Agree or disagree too is the new norm in today's modern NFL. He's talking about linebackers here. And it's here to stay. Bye-bye, big plays. Your time is over. The next phase of the defense evolution is here, and teams will rush 3 and drop 8. What do you think about this rush 3, drop 8 that with First No Fear is talking about?
I think if you do that against a good quarterback, you're dead meat. So there's times to do it, and I don't think there is any one right answer. You will mix coverage. You will see them drop 8. You will see them rush 3. You will see them rush 6. If you stick to one scheme, you're going to get killed.
Yeah.
Good offenses and good players will definitely adjust. And as a base, you want to rush 3 and drop 8, I'm going to run it right down your freaking throat. So again, you've got to be multiple on defense because the offenses are just too good.
Yeah. And our guy, Ethan. Hope you're doing well, Ethan. Got a topic for you today, that's for sure. We missed you last week and I hope you're doing well. Good afternoon, Jets and Broncos country. If I'm Peyton, I'm calling the Bears today about Roquan Smith. He has requested a trade. And this kind of leans into our topic today. I was going to go with something else, but then I saw the Roquan Smith news. Have you seen this yet, Scott? He just
I
requested
haven't,
a
but
trade.
I think all former Bears, he's still a current Bear, all former
Yes.
Bears that get cut end up in Atlanta. So
He won't be cut.
I know I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't know. I would say 10 or 11 of the last 12 Falcon signings have Chicago Bears ties. It's a little laughable at this point.
Yeah, maybe not a team you are wanting to emulate right now either. But Roquan
Exactly.
Smith,
You can't find former Patriots,
no.
Steelers.
Yep. Roquan Smith, one of the top probably 8 linebackers in football. A little bit small, but very instinctive. Good coverage player. Somebody that the Broncos were definitely interested in the, gosh, was that the Bradley Chubb draft as well? Did he go in that one? I think he did. So I guess the first thought is, Scott, thoughts on Roquan Smith? We haven't watched much Bears. And thoughts on the trade compensation.
Good player. Trade compensation. What are you talking? At least a second,
I think
for
probably a 2 and like a conditional pick.
or something
Yeah.
like that. But Roquan has a special place in recruiting history because he was one of those guys who he went off the grid. He made his commitment and then disappeared. People are trying to get him. Like, the coach that you committed to, he just left, and people can't find him. It was actually kind of funny. I think he may have been the guy that was going to UCLA, possibly, and the linebacker coach ended up in Atlanta, but nobody could find Roquan. Like, his grandfather or someone, I'm mixing up the names here as far as who it was, but like took him out into the like backwoods because he was tired of him getting bothered and no one could find him. So all those good things going around this type of players, but turned out to be a heck of a player and has been a heck of a pro. So probably a second rounder. And again, there's a lot of noise from the outside, but I watch what they do, not what they say. Have you seen a single action that makes you think that George Paton is overly concerned about the linebacker position?
Uh, Actually, yes, a little bit. Because they were one of two teams that were finalists for Anthony Barr, who ended up
Mhm.
going to the Cowboys, and they brought in Joe Schobert, former Wisconsin Badger, played for the Browns, played for the Jags, played for the Steelers, in for a workout. So I think there's at least a little bit of
Like I said,
intrigue there. Yeah,
overly concerned, as far as
yeah,
trying to get somebody that isn't just a depth guy and is a pure inside linebacker as opposed to Anthony Barr, who's a bit different. And if a guy like
yeah,
Anthony Barr is available, you're definitely kicking the tires.
yeah,
It doesn't matter if you feel good about it or not. He's 6'5", 260 pounds of, good football player. You definitely kick the
yeah.
tires on somebody like him, even if it's, at one of your stronger positions, you bring in a player like him. But I haven't seen anything that makes me think, and to your point now, I'll go ahead and contradict myself. You would kick the tires on a player like Roquan Smith if he became available too. But I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything that makes me think like, and if it is the weakest position, a weak link, it's not all that weak. It's still you're still in pretty good shape at the linebacker, at the inside linebacker position.
Yeah, and we'll get into that here. Bill Barnwell released a piece on ESPN with all the contenders' weakest positions, and I maybe take a little. Ethan's in here, so I don't want to irritate him. No, but Ethan and I had a little fun back and forth yesterday, but I would take a slightly different approach on that. But we'll get into it. We got Shiloh coming in with a $2 super over on YouTube. Thank you so much, helping us get some coffee this morning. Saying good morning, MHH. Trying to catch more live shows. Well, we appreciate that, and if you have any questions or anything, contribute to the chat that way as well. But we appreciate you. Also got the guy Mark Schrader coming in. Mark, appreciate you gassing me up on the hiking photos from this weekend. It was a beautiful trip, man. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you, Mark. And Peter Middleton out there in Cambodia saying help Broncos for breakfast. Help us out. No, he meant to say hello, Broncos for breakfast. Help us. No.
Yeah, we're gonna help you. We'll help you try and get through your day.
Yeah.
Since you're closing your day, it's the evening where you are, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm confused. It's starting to turn into like 20-hour days for me, and I'm like, wait, is it morning? Is it night? Where are you? What time zone?
What year is it? We got EJ coming in. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Happy Tuesday. CC's in the house too. Morning, all. Hope you all doing great. And also we got EJ coming in saying that's why I felt the Broncos should have drafted Nakobe Dean instead of Greg Dulcich, but I'm not the GM, so oh well. I think Nakobe Dean had some medical stuff that dropped him a good bit, and once you hear something like that, it's like always a little bit concerning. But it sounds like he is doing well in their camp so far, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, you should be happy that you have Dulcich now that you lost Tim Patrick as well. I mean, we're gonna need those
Do,
weapons.
do they have Dulcich though either?
Yeah, he's coming
I
along.
mean, he's coming along. I mean, he hasn't been able to play yet, and if he's going to miss an entire preseason for a third round, fourth round rookie, I don't know that you're going to expect to see too much of him this year.
I think he's been starting to get into practice these last couple of weeks or these last few sessions. So I would expect to see him maybe get some run in this week one preseason game even. But he's definitely behind. But it's not like Baron
Right.
Browning where it's week 7 until we see him. So um, I think he's coming along. But Albert Okwebin, I'm also a little bit hyped up from Albert Breer here recently. You have some options at the tight end position. I would say the tight end position, I'm more no names than the linebacker spot
Mhm.
on the Broncos. But you have wide receivers and running backs too, so should be okay. Bama X coming in. Good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Bama X. Kevin Gray. Good morning, Broncos country. Nick and Scott. My coffee is perfect this morning. Still wondering about that offensive line. Let's ride. Us too. And did you see practice yesterday early on? I think like the first 2 or 3 Browns out there with the offense versus defense, the defense had like 4 sacks, and I think 3 of them came against Calvin Anderson there at the right tackle position. So, I think Malik Reed bull rushed him on one of them too. Which if Malik Reed is beating you with power, your pad level's an issue on that one. I didn't see the rep, so I can't speak totally. Maybe he just got beat on one, but that's red flags for the right tackle position this year.
Yeah, we went into I think. Let's see. Someone had just said something they were concerned about the line. Maybe that was the one that you had shown.
Yeah, it was Kevin Gray.
Yeah, so it's a little farther up, but yeah, we went into the season thinking, right tackle was a question mark, and we haven't gotten the answers that we want. If anything, it's even a bigger question mark. And
yep.
I don't know. He didn't say, going through his article, he didn't say offensive tackle, so to speak. He'd say just basically units. But my biggest concern for this team is an inside linebacker. It's right tackle.
Yep. That's we'll get into that a little bit more, but I agree with you as well. There's another position here that I'm more concerned about than linebacker, but got to say hello to some folks still here saying, Jeremy Sean, good morning. Can you believe we're actually playing football this week? No, I can't. I'm really excited about that. Should be great. We got Dave Glassman with the hearts. Facebook user saying football is close. Football's here. We're just having a good time with it right now. Glenn Hare also saying Roquan Smith wants out of Chicago. I'd love to see George Payton try to bring him in. The thing about Roquan Smith is that the Broncos are not really in a position to give up draft capital to go get him. You only have 4 picks right now. Only one of the picks is going to be in the top 100. And you'd probably have to start trading away 2023 picks. And with the way this Broncos roster is set up right now, Russell Wilson going to need a new contract here pretty soon. You're going to have to make some decisions with the likes of Bradley Chubb and Draymond Jones, who are going to get big contracts, likely. We'll see how this year plays out. But you need those young, cost-controlled players to kind of, keep the cap space healthy. So you're talking away not only trading away draft capital, but bringing in a guy who's pretty highly paid to do that. It just, with the Broncos making a Russell Wilson trade, which the right move every time, quarterback is a billion times more valuable than the linebacker spot. You just probably don't have the wiggle room to do that right now.
Now, I know I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I can't say I watched a ton of the Chicago Bears last year. When we say take Pro Football Focus grades with a grain of salt, but just looking him up real quick, he had a very poor year last year.
Yeah.
According to Pro Football Focus, I mean, he's ranked in the 60s at inside linebacker with a overall grade of 47.8 with a run defense grade of 30.0. Coverage was good at 69.2. So
nice.
Are you good in coverage, or does he become kind of one-dimensional? Do I need 2 players to get one where, he's coming in as a nickel backer while, Jonas goes out, or Jonas or Josie Jewell go out, and is that worth a 2nd or 3rd round pick? Probably not. So again, I'm not, we've got some Bears contacts we could find out. There was a lot of discussion last year about a lot of the players, including Justin Fields, and that the Chicago Bears were just a dumpster fire last year. Not to look too hard into any individual player because the coaching situation was such a mess. Sound familiar? But again, he didn't have a good year last year. That's for sure.
No. And that's one thing about the linebacker position is that it's a very much a sum of the parts around it, especially in today's NFL, you can hide linebackers pretty well. We've seen it with the Broncos for a number of years now. Sometimes, really good quarterbacks and offensive coordinators can pick on that, but you'd rather have them pick on a linebacker rather than a cornerback because you're giving up 5 to 10 yard plays versus 80-yard touchdowns if a cornerback's getting beat. So
unless it's a run issue and
then you're getting
5
paper
6 yards on first down, and then you're always looking at 2nd and 4 and 3rd and 2.
Yep.
Then it becomes a problem for your defensive secondary because you're being left out on islands out there. So again, the linebackers don't matter. They do. Well, I know it's an exaggeration. I know, but
hyperbole.
They do, especially in if they're picking on you right up the gut of your defense, you got problems.
Yeah, and I definitely meant in the pass game specifically, but you're right. Browns game and Eagles games last year should be a reminder to the Broncos that linebackers do matter if you're playing practice squad caliber players. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Love you. Oh, Gary, so nice. That's a way to start off my Tuesday. I don't need coffee anymore. I'm buzzing. Go Broncos and let's ride. We love you too, Gary. Thank you so much. Sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I want to hit Glenn. Glenn here coming in. Relatively newer name for us.
Yeah.
Coming in with the stars. Thank you, Glenn. Love the picture. I can see what that one is nice and clearly, even with these peepers of mine getting worse and worse. So, interesting coming in from from Ethan saying Chubb for Roquan and a couple of picks. No, I didn't know. I think they're pretty happy with where Bradley Chubb is. And again, if you can get Bradley Chubb to become who Bradley Chubb should be, you'd rather have the edge than an inside linebacker in a third and fourth rounder to go in with it. Not even saying you could get that, because if Chubb was offered, if this season were to turn south like last year and you were to move Chubb towards the end of the year, could you get a third and fourth for him alone? With
it would
1
depend
year
on
left
his
on
level
his
of play.
deal.
It would depend on how he's playing and whatnot.
Depend on how he's playing.
Yeah. But maybe, he still has, he'd probably have to pass a physical and everything like that. But I think you probably have more value bringing in Chubb, keeping Chubb than bringing in Roquan right now for this team. EJ
says, Pro Football Focus ranked Michael Ojemudia ahead of Surtain last year, which was laughable. And that's one of the reasons why Surtain didn't get enough love last year until people go back and start looking. Because like me, we'll take a look at the PFF rankings as a reference and be like, and I'm not, if the Broncos were to become more interested, and if this would become a thing, I would check more deeply into Roquan Smith. Okay, what was his season really like?
Yeah.
But on the surface, we'll just take a look at PFF and use it as kind of a guide. And the guide, not the Bible, says he didn't have a really good year last year.
Wrong.
But again, that's just a piece of information, EJ. I agree with you 100%. And we try and qualify all of those statements about PFF with, again, it is PFF. They are not the law, but it is a guide. And the guide was not so good on him. But again, I did some work with some Chicago Bears guys earlier, and they were so down on that staff last year that it might take more than a year to dig out from under that mess. In fact, it's going to.
RIP Justin Fields. The other thing here I want to reference to EJ, the grades on PFF are subjective because it's, one or two people doing the grades, where like a lot of the count, like the actual statistics, not the quantitative data, not the qualitative data, I would say is better. And God, at some point, man, we need public access to this GPS data these teams have, because I would be really interested to see that. One more thing here about this comment. Michael Ojemudia only played one game last year, and he had a damn good game. So the sample size here is one reason that Ojemudia is ranked higher. It's not because he is better. It's because he's grading off that KC game, week 17, and he flashed a lot in that game. He had a great game. So obviously, PS2 is better. And that hurts me to say because go Hawks, but no, duh. Ashton coming in. Good morning, guys. Good to see you, Ashton. We also got to Jeremy saying if Josie and Jonas are healthy, we should be okay. Yeah, we'll see. I think it's more about the depth is an issue there, but hopefully it won't be too big of an issue. Greg Smith, good morning, Broncos for breakfast. Always loves that he gives us the egg frying pan and the croissant. Makes me hungry. It's much better than my. We're not sponsored by Built Bar or anything, but I have like a Quest bar every morning, so I guess I can say that. Keith Cummings, just can't see the Broncos having the picks to acquire Roquan Smith. That's the bottom line. I mean, at what point do you think, like, let's say the Bears come to you, would you give up a 2022 second and a 6th-round pick this year, Scott? Is that too much, or would you rather keep that? 2023 second. You don't have 2022.
I knew what you meant. Do the Broncos even have a second next year?
In 2023? Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't even sure. No, I wouldn't. I'd hold on to those. And right now you're looking to bolster as opposed to, we talked about depth, and every team the Broncos have good depth, but there's certain spots where you might need that second to get a starter. You're okay right now. You're trying to maybe strengthen a position, but you're one more injury away from wide receiver from needing to make a move. I'd hold on to that stuff for that. I'd leave that in my rainy day fund, and I don't consider linebacker a rainy day.
Yeah. Not in today's NFL. Obviously, would rather have all-pro players than average players, and rather have average than bad, but I don't think it's going to make or break your defense. It's more important to not play trash players out there. It's kind of like the interior offensive line. If you have 3 solid guys, but they're not all, Canton bound, your offensive line should be fine. You'd rather have better receivers and offensive tackles and other pieces around them. But if they're terrible, it can sink the whole unit. I think it's the same thing with the linebacker there. Travis Weber coming in saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Just getting ready to go to work and wanted to wish you guys a good show and a great day. We'll have to listen after work. New ownership should take place today." Yep. Happy new ownership day. We appreciate you very much for stopping in, Travis. Good to see you. Also, Anthony saying, "Let's ride." FC Donley, morning. C. Beaston, morning. Good to see you. All these guys in here. And Falling Slot saying, "Oh, heck yeah. Show is just starting at the perfect time. Just got off a phone interview, and I always hate when I can't read body language. Think I did all right. Now time to switch to some fun Broncos talk." Well, good luck to you, Falling Sloth. I know it's a little bit after the fact there, but it's gonna be okay. ZZZ
good
also.
Luck, Falling Sloth.
Yeah. I think you work in the Cincinnati Zoo. You leaving the Cincinnati Zoo? What's going on, man? Was the Cincinnati Zoo the one that had Harambe?
I don't remember.
Okay. Somebody in the chat definitely knows.
That
Broncos
hit
for
my
breakfast.
YouTube feed again the other day. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, it's a little dark. For sure. It's one of those things where you remember where you were when you heard about it because it was that weird. But I know Scott, big animal lover here.
Yeah, not for me. And probably that's one of the reasons why is like, I don't remember where I was. I kind of try to just block that one out.
Yeah. I do not blame you. Gabe Engelvold coming in here saying, if Broncos current starting nickel cornerback, Kawan Williams goes down, who do you guys see starting at nickel? I'm worried about the corner depth, honestly. What do you think about this, Scott?
I was trying to look at it, earlier. I'm looking at the depth chart now. Where is Ojemudia on here? There he is. Ojemudia can fill in that role. Patrick Surtain can, if you can play outside, you can play inside for the most part. So, the question is do you have enough good cornerbacks, period? So I think the Broncos do. You got Darby Ojemudia, if he comes back 100%, is a really good option. Surtain, Williams, you got 4 really good corners right there. Where does this saying Bassey fit in? And one of the guys they're talking about also, one of the early draft picks is Damari Mathis. So we look at these with blinders on sometimes and think, okay, injury here and we're in trouble. Yeah, but you're negotiating from a position of strength. You've got so many more good corners than most other teams in the NFL. Everybody has depth problems. Everybody. That's a design of trying to get parity in the NFL with a 53-man roster and a salary cap. So you're not alone there, Gabe. You're not alone worried about, injuries. Everybody's worried about injuries because the NFL is engineered for players to be able to move around. So one team just can't stack all these guys and pay them what they want to and hoard all the players.
Yep. Obviously, if you lose any cornerback, you have questions. But as far as the nickel spot, it sounds like Asang Bassey has been just getting beat left and right out there. So I would, if he's out on the field, I would be nervous. But it does sound like Damari Mathis has been stepping up there in that corner spot. And also, I think it sounds like Patrick Surtain has been getting some run in the slot as well. And if you guys have paid attention to me on any of the shows, I've said more than a few times I'd be interested in Patrick Surtain this year because Jalen Ramsey, I think, played the highest amount of slot snaps available of any cornerback in that Rams defense last year with Ejiro Evero being his defensive back coach. So I think you might see more Patrick Surtain in the slot than you're accustomed to.
Well, and you're talking about, Nick, the Barnwell article about, questions about needing 2 linebackers because, they play Kelsey and who else was the other one? That's the other really good. And Waller, 4 times. I think you probably also get the kid from San Francisco also on the schedule this year. I mean, there's plenty of good tight ends. Patrick Surtain might be your guy. I don't want an inside linebacker matching up against those guys. They want an inside linebacker, any inside linebacker matching up against those guys.
Yep.
So get them in obvious, win first down this year because you didn't last year. Win first down this year. Get them in passing situations, and you can drop Patrick Surtain in the slot and have him cover a more dangerous weapon in the tight ends. I don't have to worry about him matching up in run defense that way. So, again, it's all not cyclical, but it's all synergetic. It all connects.
Yep.
It's all, that's how it is about the defense. But there is very good depth, Gabe. I'm convinced. Now, the depth at the tight end position, as Ethan comes in, hot pink, coming in with the fuchsia, 50 pounds. So what do we think about Luke's breaking news that Schaubert is the number 1 tight end in camp so far? What do you think? Saubert.
Eric Saubert. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eric Saubert, pride of Drake University there in Des Moines, Iowa, the Bulldogs. Woof woof. And I think that the tight end position is almost we need to talk about it like it being dichotomized, like almost like how we're talking about the starting slot nickel cornerback versus the starting boundary cornerback. Yes, you can dabble in a little bit of everything, but you have different guys for different that stand out in different niches, and you have that with the tight end position as well. They even have letters for each of these different tight end spots. You have the F tight end, which I like to think of as flex, which is more typically your big slot detached from the line of scrimmage. It's the guys that see Noah Fant in the jet sweep motion kind of things. It's your F tight end. You have your Y, which is more your prototypical inline blocker. Somebody like a Gronkowski, somebody like a Jason Witten, essentially a 6 offensive lineman attached to the line. Then you have your F, which is kind of a combination between the F tight end and a fullback, plays in the backfield, does a lot of that kind of stuff. So I think there are multiple battles going on right now, and one of them being the Y tight end battle, which is Eric Saubert versus Eric Tomlinson. I think Saubert was the lead early, but Tomlinson is such a good blocker that it could go either way on that one, and it might even be, what they're trying to do with dictating the opposing team's personnel, which one they put out there. And but I'm much more intrigued by the F tight end position battle, which is Greg Dulcich versus Albert Okwuegbunam. And if one of those F tight ends can do enough at the H back spot to make Andrew Beck dispensable.
Yeah, and Andrew Beck, not Andrew Beck, but if Saubert is getting the majority of the snaps, that means the tight end won't get nearly as many targets, in my opinion. Yeah. Again, if we're in a set like that, then you've got your running back, tight end, 3 wide receivers. If your 3 wide receivers end up being Hamler, Judy, and Sutton, then you're throwing to your backs a lot. I think Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams combined for about 80 receptions last year. Then how many targets is the tight end going to get when you've got a tight end hesitant thrower? Okay, well, let's put in a big blocker then, a guy that's succeeding in blocking, because we're not going to target him as much anyway, and we've got plenty of weapons in other places. So it's kind of a wait and see for me, for sure. If that ends up being the case, it means you're more worried about right tackle, and you need another blocker in there than you do a pass catcher.
And to that point as well, it's about dictating opposing teams' personnel. If you put Eric Tomlinson out there, who's like 270 pounds for a tight end, I mean, just a monster in terms of his size, and teams are still playing nickel and dime against you, you run it down their bleeping throats. You punch them in the mouth until they okay, we need to put linebackers out there. We need to play cover 1 or cover 3 and put more guys in the box because we're getting killed right now by the run game. Now we've opened up the big pass game for Russell Wilson. So it's always your personnel is very much used to try to dictate the opposing team's personnel. That's one thing that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay have done so well over these last few years. Like, we're trying to get other teams taking defensive backs and defensive linemen off the field because we want linebackers, because linebackers are weak.
So, I'm an old guy, and I've talked about the good old fashioned I formation a lot. Where did it go? My Cowboys of the early 90s and the 49ers of the 80s, those 2 dynasties were based I formations. Well, you know who won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks running a single back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receiver set? Was the Washington Redskins and Joe Gibbs. So there's still some of that works for me as well. I'm not sure who the tight end was on those teams, but I remember Art Monk. I remember John Riggins, and I remember the quarterbacks and having the weapons. So again, we spent the beginning of the show talking about worrying about offensive line, specifically right tackle. Here, this might be your answer, Ethan. This might be your answer. If Saubert's out there, he's there to help block.
Yep, for sure. Michael Ronquillo saying today is the new Denver Broncos organization, new ownership group. Welcome Broncos country to a new era. Let's ride and go Broncos. We also got Miguel coming in saying, good morning, fellows. Does Evero value linebacker that much for Smith? Seems like linebacker is the bottom of the totem pole. It does seem like linebacker is the bottom of the totem pole. I don't know if you saw this on the Twitter machine the other day, but somebody was like, oh man, this Broncos defense, nobody remembers anybody besides Surtain and Simmons. After that, it's a bunch of nobodies. I can't even name their starting linebacker duo. And then I'm like, can you please, for the love of God, name me the starting linebacker duo of the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams last year? In fact, name me one of the linebackers that the Rams started last year at the that stack linebacker spot, because most people can't, and they were still amazing. Duh.
Yeah, I don't get that deep into other teams.
Yeah.
I can name 6 linebackers for the Broncos. I'm hyper focused right
Yeah.
now. Where again, last year was my first year kind of back covering the NFL, so I'm looking forward to expanding. It all feels very narrow vision at the beginning, and I'll catch up. I'll catch up this year. It'll be another good year for watching some football, draft. Just always get better. That's what I say. That's what I ask. So I plan on getting better this year. Trying to catch up with Nick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if you want to catch up, but you have a more of a life to have there with the family and whatnot. But Lawrence coming in, what's up, guys? Just got to say hi. I'm in bad reception and can't watch the show. Well, we'll see you later on the repeat. That's one of the good things about it. And Gary Leeds Palmer coming in. I love you. Does Hack use the 1-2-3 designation? I notice he avoids that. Does that mean anything? What does Gary mean by this? The 1-2-3 designation? Is he
First,
talking
second,
about
third teams?
Okay,
Would be
I didn't
my
know if he
guess.
meant okay.
Mhm.
I don't know. That'd be a really good question. I would at Luke on Twitter if you are on Twitter and ask him to ask that question in one of the press conferences. But that has not stood out to me yet. Maybe that's I mean, you can kind of figure things out by watching who's out there and who's not out there based on the role. But I haven't noticed that. That's an interesting question there, Gary. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it'll settle out. Even if they don't, you'll end up guys that are out there first and getting most of the targets and most of the snaps. So
Yep.
it doesn't necessarily matter. Kind of like we're not keeping score. Well, the kids are.
Yeah.
We don't we're not going to keep score. We don't want the kids to feel bad. We don't want to call them a number one. Yeah, well, we know who number one is, and so do the players.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. We got Albert Knoppers coming in saying, I still believe we have a good one in Caden Stearns. What do you think? We didn't even talk about him earlier, talking about who's your backup nickel player. Maybe it ends up being Caden Stearns, instead of the dime look sometimes. Maybe you're going with a heavier nickel, and that's Caden Stearns there in the slot. I mean, he kind of has a cornerback body type. You need a good tackler from the slot. He could definitely be in the mix.
Yeah, especially if you're going against those tight ends.
Yep.
You get in a dime package, you drop a bigger safety in that spot to cover the tight ends. It makes absolute sense. What doesn't make sense is dropping an inside linebacker in a passing situation against a premier tight end.
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
that's been a bad idea since Kellen Winslow in the 80s. Yeah. That's always been a bad idea. If they see that matchup, they're going to it all day long.
Yep. There's really, the only linebacker that I trust in that situation in the entire NFL, two of them, Levante David and Fred Warner. Other than that, good luck. If you're getting a linebacker matched up,
you're still going to get beat 3 out of 4 times.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. These guys complete 65, 70% of their passes, probably more than that, to the elite tight ends for a reason.
Yep.
You just hope you like those guys. Hopefully they're close to avoid the yards after catch. It's okay, make the catch. Now you're big enough to not get dragged or trucked for another 15-yard gain.
Yep. And that's one of the things that Josie Jewell has actually been pretty good at. To allow some stuff underneath, not beating him past him, though. Mark Schrader, anything new on Moody's injury? Haven't heard much.
Thanks for the stars, Mark. Big time stars.
Oh, hell yeah. Thank you so much, Mark. Gas money for my future hikes. Anything new on Moody's injury? I haven't heard anything new other than they're taking it easy with him right now. It's kind of a bummer. I hope he's ready for the preseason game because they could definitely use the reps for that. Seems like he's becoming the swing guard, and it sounds like he needs more reps at left guard if possible to catch up there to where he's at the right guard spot. But haven't heard too much on Tanya Moody's injury.
Yeah, they didn't say too much about it after practice yesterday. That doesn't mean that it's not more serious. But again, injuries happen. Guys get nicked up a little bit. No pun intended, Nick. So, but they haven't said anything. They're, a further evaluation, no words. It didn't sound too bad, but, we'll see. We will see.
Yep. And for the boys at home and the ladies at home, starting linebackers for the Rams last year, Super Bowl defense, Troy Reeder and Ernest Jones.
Still couldn't tell you who they are.
Yep. And Miguel saying, "Dang, Nick, dang Scott, you made Nick blush a little. What'd you make me blush about? I don't even."
Complimenting you.
Oh man, ooh,
They're all shy.
I am a little hot under the collar there. So let's get into it here. Bill Barnwell's article listing the contenders' biggest weaknesses entering the season. And first off, the thing that makes me the most concerned about this article is Broncos' chances to make the playoffs, according to ESPN's FPI, 55.5%. What do you think?
I'll take some of that action.
Yeah, if that's betting market, I think so as well. I mean, 7 teams. I think the biggest thing is that there's so much unknown for the Broncos, which leads to uncertainty, and it also just because the AFC West, right? That makes it pretty tough as well. But the thing that really stands out here for me is the 55.5 is not very high, considering I think the Broncos have the 4th highest odds to make the Super Bowl from the AFC of anybody according to Vegas. So
And
maybe
you're 1-1 on making the playoffs. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'll take some of that action. Bet 100 to win 100. All
Yeah.
right. 1-1 odds. Yes, please. I'll take that.
I think the other way, unfortunately, is according to Vegas, you should fade. According to ESPN, what Vegas is putting out there, you should fade the Broncos a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of excited fans and over betting there on the Broncos side of things. But I digress. He lists Bill Barnwell over on ESPN. This is a insider article, so don't go searching for it unless you have that. But that's why you're here. We're going to help you out. Says the Broncos' Achilles heel is the linebacker spot, and Bill Barnwell writes, after major offseason additions at quarterback, Russell Wilson, and edge rusher, Randy Gregory, the Broncos addressed by far their biggest weaknesses on either side of the ball. One position that is still concerning is general manager. One position that is clearly still concerning general manager George Payton, though, is the off-ball linebacker spot. He said off-ball linebacker spot.
I know.
Where they are still shopping for veterans. Denver brought in former Browns and Jags defender Joe Schobert for a visit, and Payton reportedly attempted to re-sign one of his former Chargers in Anthony Barr. I wonder if I said Chargers. Before the longtime Vikings linebacker joined. Okay. Yep. Before the longtime Viking linebacker joined the Cowboys. Until the Broncos add another player to the mix, they have one starting job locked down with a solid player, Josie Jewell, who missed most of 2021 with a pectoral injury. Jewell isn't a superstar, and he can be picked on a bit in coverage, but he's a competent 3-down linebacker. If he's on the field for 17 games, the Broncos should be happy with one of their starters. So that's the first part here. Second part, the other spot is the one I suspect Payton is trying to improve. Denver let Alexander Johnson and Kenny Young leave this offseason. Alexander Johnson's still available. And moved Baron Browning to the edge, leaving a hole in the lineup. The Broncos signed Alex Singleton, who was forced onto the field out of desperation in Philadelphia. He's best as a special teams player and a backup linebacker. He'll be competing with Jonas Griffith, who started the final 4 games of the season. Signing Schobert or Anthony Hitchens would make sense for the Broncos, who will have to face tight ends Travis Kelce and Darren Waller 4 times this season. So Bill Barnwell does amazing work for ESPN. I want to give him credit there, but a few things I do take a little bit of a disagreement with him. And the first one, you kind of already hinted on it. We both hinted on it a few times. Broncos signing a linebacker to help combat the likes of Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. If you're signing a linebacker at this point to try to be your plan to stop those guys, you are bleeped.
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late.
And those guys don't even really exist. So I think this linebacker spot is much more about getting more competency in the room, hedging bets with Jonas Griffith, and making it so you aren't getting destroyed in the run game. Because right now the Broncos are really lacking some difference makers in terms of the mass along the defensive line. Outside of DJ Jones, I don't think the Broncos, hell, I'll even go this far. Outside of the Joneses, I don't think the Broncos have anything that is above average at the interior defensive line. And that puts more on your linebackers to be competent in the run game. I really like Deshaun Williams. I think he's more of a first guy off the bench, rotational kind of defensive lineman. We like Awuzurike, fourth round pick rookie. How much are we even going to see him this year? How much can we depend on him? McTelvin Agene, year 3, shit or get off the pot. Pardon me, but that's where we're at with him. Mike Purcell, 31, 32 years old, has not looked very good since 2019. Expensive, limited. So outside of the Joneses, Broncos interior defensive line, not good. And that puts more on the linebackers.
Yeah. And the other one I have on there, Nick, was, really downplaying Alex Singleton.
Yeah.
for a guy who, should be a special teams player, blah, blah, blah. He had 140 tackles and 8 starts last year.
Yep.
He's pretty good. Oh, and yeah, by the way, Jonas Griffith had, he started the last 4 games. Meh. He was good. He was really good. And
Yep.
2, you can say starters, kind of like we talk about 3-4 base. How often are you in your 3-4 base? It's not like we're not talking about like a starting center or starting center fielder where those guys are, in for the entire game. And when I meant center, I meant basketball, who's in the game the entire time.
Yep.
We're talking about a rotational player anyway for a man who doesn't necessarily prioritize that position in the defense. So how many inside linebackers do you need in a game? 3? You've got them. You've got 3 pretty good ones. So I don't know. I'm not all that worried about it. I mean, it's almost like he answers his own question again. If you were really worried about inside linebacker, would you have moved Baron Browning? Does that say more about Baron Browning, or does that say more about, listen, we need more help at edge because this is going to be an edge defendant pressure defense where we want to get to the quarterback, force the ball, force turnovers, put duress on them, and not just sit back and play catch, which is what the Broncos did last year. You're going to funnel anything to our inside linebackers. They're going to make a tackle, and it's going to be 2nd and 6. Then it's going to be 3rd and 2. Then it's going to be 1st and 10. Rinse and frickin' repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of this is my understanding from somebody that I talked with in Dove Valley. Part of my understanding with Browning being moved to the edge was because they felt so excited about Jonas Griffith as well. So this is, Bill Barnwell covering all 32 NFL teams. He couldn't do what we were doing and know what we know about all 32 teams. I mean, it's just not possible, especially when you're writing that much rather than just researching. So I think a lot of it is underselling Jonas Griffith, who sounds like he's been doing well this season. But the other reason I think the Broncos have been bringing in linebackers, I think Singleton has been not very good in camp so far. I know he had 140 tackles or whatever last year, Scott, but I think the pure tackle stat is the most overrated in football. It's just,
but again,
are you on the field stat?
Is he being brought in to start, though, or is he a good depth piece?
I think you'd like him as a 4th linebacker.
Right.
And right now he's the 3rd. So they're looking for somebody to push down. And I think this also speaks to Justin Strnad being underwhelming. I know that it was Evero spoke him up a couple practices ago. It sounds like Strnad's a good guy, but on the field, I don't think he is that much of a difference maker or a plus player in special teams either. Talking about
a good guy too. Say hi to Jacob real quick. The silent one coming in with some stars. Appreciate you, Jacob. Can't say it enough. You don't say much, but hopefully you hear us and saying thank you because it means a lot. So thank you for coming in and supporting the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jacob Foster. We appreciate you. And yeah, Singleton sounds like a really good special teams guy that you want out there. He's a player that you'd like to have on your team, but maybe it's not so much getting a lot of snaps on your defense. And again, tackles, very much if you are on the field and playing the linebacker spot, you are going to make some tackles because there's no stat for. I like it actually. Pro Football Focus, they have one that's called run stops, which is considered, actually halting the linebacker like at your spot or forward versus, turning your hips around from the line of scrimmage and getting a guy 8 yards down the field. You still get the tackle. That looks good, but it's not a good tackle.
I still almost think of this as almost a 4-3, or a nickel where there's one linebacker in there.
Yep.
And you've got 3 then. How often are you going to be how often are 2 inside linebackers going to be on the field?
I think it's going to be more than you think just because, and I come back to it, it's because the defensive line depth is concerning. You don't have guys that you feel comfortable playing a 5-1-5 look. I think it's going to be more so 4-2-6. I know, insert friends joke here.
7.
Yeah, because right now your other 4-eye and the Rams played a lot of 5-1-5 last season.
4-2-6, that's 12 players. I want to pull that one off.
4-2-5, excuse me.
Yeah, that's a straight nickel. I mean, that's your nickel.
Yep. So I think you're going to see that far more than your 3-4 base, obviously. But the Rams played a lot of 5-1-5 last year, and I just don't think the Broncos have the personnel on the defensive line to pull that off. Because defense, I mean, if your name's not Aaron Donald, most defensive linemen are playing 60 to 75% of the snaps. So it's a heavy rotational position. And outside of the Joneses, it's a bunch of question marks for the Broncos defensive line right now. So I think that forces the Broncos into more of a 4-2-5 look rather than a 5-1-5 more often. So probably you're going to see more linebackers, not the edge rushers, on the field.
So what are you
And
looking most forward to? I'm gonna
yeah,
kind of
let's go ahead.
transition as we're getting close to wrapping up here. Jeremy comes in and asks, I hope Browning gets some run on Saturday. Here he's been very good. Real quick on highlights from Raiders and Jaguars. Trevon Walker, yes, please. Looks very good. Could we see Browning get a decent run on Saturday?
Yeah, I think so. And from what I'm gathering, Browning has taken a firm hold of the third edge spot. That if Randy Gregory is not ready to go week 1, you'll probably see Browning out there opposite of Chubb, and that Benito has been meh.
What
Uh,
you
s-
expect? I
yeah,
mean,
it's a new position for Brown too, and he's taken it. But second year for
he's a
him.
second year pro,
Yeah,
and he's considerably he's got most of what Benito has from a agility standpoint, and he's got a lot of what Benito doesn't have from a strength standpoint.
yeah.
As
Tested
far
bigger,
as
faster, and stronger.
yeah, it's good. So if you run out there and he ends up starting week 1 at edge, well, question asked, question answered
Yeah,
about why was he moved? Because we friggin' needed him. That's why,
yeah.
and he's good
Yep.
at it.
Yep. What am I excited to see from the Broncos in this first matchup? God, I guess I haven't even thought about it that much. I guess it's just the rookie class in general. I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what Benito can do. I'm excited to see what Damari Mathis can do. Wuzurike, if they're gonna, what the usage is gonna be. But I think the number one thing I'm interested in is the personnel packages that we'll see on the field given the situations. We were just talking about it. 4-1, 4-2-5, 5-1-5. Are they going to be in base ever? How often are they going to the linebackers? We're not going to really figure out some of the stuff because I think especially on defense, a lot of the defenses in the back seven is going to be built around Patrick Surtain. And are they going to really use that with a non-Patrick Surtain player in preseason? Maybe. I guess maybe, but total question mark there for me. Chris Hernandez coming in saying, good morning, go Broncos. Thank you so much for the support, Chris. We appreciate you.
Yeah, good morning. Coming in just a shade late, but that's better than not coming in at all. So appreciate you being
Absolutely.
here. And for those of y'all catching the end of the show on YouTube, leave us a comment. I go in and check them. If you have any
Yeah.
questions or follow ups, disagreements, agreements, anything like that. If you agree with me, I'll probably just like it. If you disagree with me and ask a question, I'll clarify. So I like to follow those up on YouTube. So even if you're late, come leave a comment. Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. Well, if they're before we get out of here, so Scott, we talked about for me, um, you already heard me go so much about it, but I would say a bigger concern for me in the Broncos is the defensive line across the board. Um, we've talked all offseason. The edge rushing spot is super volatile because your top two players have missed as many games as they've played over the last few seasons in Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory, and you just have a bunch of question marks behind them. And then the interior defensive line after the Joneses. Again, I don't want to totally disparage Deshaun Williams because I think he has value in this league, but
Mhm.
you want him to be that first guy off the bench who you
Mhm.
can do some rotational stuff around him. So that is the big one for me. But I guess the other one, and you kind of touched on it earlier before we get on out of here, right tackle. Do you have any thoughts on that? That's
Yeah,
the
I
one.
wasn't sure if you were going to expand on that
That
because I touched on it earlier. But yes,
yeah.
you've got concerns there, and will you be facing the number one edge from and Dante Fowler's over there now, so that's kind of who you're hoping to face um, if you're Calvin Anderson. But again, if you're down to him, do you start him? How much does he play? You got to wrap him in bubble wrap at this point, don't you? So you're hoping these guys can get healthy at right tackle and provide some competition because again, it was questions going in, and right now it's a bigger question than you would think. And I agree with you on Deshaun Williams. I love him as a rotational guy, getting a third of the
Yep.
snaps. Don't necessarily want him in there as a starter. I'm a big fan of his. He's an underdog type. He's a little undersized, underdrafted, but works his butt off, and he's productive when he's in there. Those are my guys. Again, so how much of the projected starters will we see? Maybe a little bit on offense since it's a new offense, new coach, new quarterback, but I wouldn't expect to see too much in week 1.
Yep. Absolutely. So the right tackle spot, definitely concerning. Probably the biggest concern on this team because one below average player on your offensive line, one D minus player on your offensive line will sink the entire unit and will sink the entire offense. So hope that's not the case. They are setting up Calvin Anderson to be that guy, but Calvin Anderson's been on the team now for 3 years now and has not yet run despite the question marks at the right tackle position leading into it. So definitely a concern. We'll find out more as we get more tape, and we'll find out more as the next few weeks progress. But we appreciate you guys. We need to start getting on out of here. Make sure you guys are following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at BFB_pod, and of course at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you join our Facebook community at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath there, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Click that bell notifications. That way you get the alert when we go live. Shows in the morning, shows in the evening. So much content. I don't think anybody's just onslaughting Broncos country with content, with the live stream and audio content quite like we are. We appreciate you guys. Scott, what's the rest of your day looking like?
I don't know. Got to get some work done. Had to sleep in a little bit. Had a quick emergency room visit last night. The boy slipped in the shower and got 5 stitches in his eye. So that doesn't go fast. Got home about 2 a.m. So I'm off to a little bit of a late start. He's okay. Make sure he's up. I let him sleep in a little bit today too. So gotta start getting some work in, and then we'll see you tonight on Tuesday is Building the Broncos. So see you tonight on Building the Broncos at 6 Mountain Time.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see you guys tonight. We appreciate you. Scott, take a nap, and everyone have a great Tuesday. Choose kindness, choose compassion. Go Broncos.